Well, welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. It's now a decade since WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange moved into the Ecuadorian embassy to avoid extradition to the United States. He's still fighting, but now from behind the bars of the toughest prison in Britain, Belmarsh. To some, he's a free speech martyr. To others, a threat to national security. In a moment, I'll speak to his wife and former lawyer. But first, a reminder of Julian Assange's story.
Story behind the biggest leak in intelligence history, profile on me, an editorial. All right.
The United States must renounce its witch hunt against WikiLeaks. Today is an important victory, but it by no means erases 7 years of detention without charge.
He does not deserve to be in a supermax prison. He's an innocent person.
Well, Richard Tice and Paula are still with me, plus I'm joined by Julian Assange's wife and his former lawyer, Stella, and in America, former US National Security Advisor, John Bolton. So welcome to all of you. Stella, welcome to you. Incredibly difficult way to lead your life. Your husband is in Belmarsh. I've been to Belmarsh. It's an incredibly high security prison. It's a pretty grim place to be locked up. He's been there nearly 4 years now, having also had 7 years of no liberty in the Ecuadorian embassy. Where is this going to go? What do you hope to achieve? What do you think may happen here?
Well, Julian faces a potential sentence in the United States of 175 years for doing journalistic work, for receiving information from a source and publishing it. And it was in the public interest. It was about U.S. war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he revealed tens of thousands of civilian deaths that had not been acknowledged before, and war crimes that have never been prosecuted.
Let me play devil's advocate. As a journalist, I thought that a lot of the stuff that appeared in the New York Times and the Guardian and various other newspapers who acted in collusion with Julian and WikiLeaks over those revelations, they redacted a lot of the more sensitive stuff which might lead to people's lives being impacted by the revelations. WikiLeaks didn't. They just put it all out. As a journalist, you would never do that. So they weren't really acting as journalists. They were acting as, here it all is, and work it out for yourselves, whereas the newspaper editors acted like what I would say proper journalists should do, which is to be careful about exactly what you put in the public domain. Do you accept that?
I don't accept it because it's not true. WikiLeaks did actually redact all of those publications from the that Manning gave to WikiLeaks. And in fact, it was in cooperation with those newspapers. They told WikiLeaks what had to be redacted, and then WikiLeaks published it redacted. In fact, WikiLeaks withheld 15,000 documents from the Afghan war logs, got criticized over redacting too much in relation to Iraq. And in relation to Cablegate, in fact, it was The Guardian that published a password which led to the cables being published. And in fact, they were published by a US publication first. So WikiLeaks, and in the extradition hearings, there has been witness testimony about people who were working with WikiLeaks at the time that Julian did, in fact, take every precaution to redact any names that could be at risk.
OK. Ambassador Bolton, thank you very much for joining me, first of all. Why is America so intent on bringing Julian Assange to unbelievably draconian justice of 175 years, i.e. the rest of his life in prison?
Well, I think that's a small amount of the sentence he actually deserves. He's committed clear criminal activity. He's no more a journalist than the chair I'm sitting on. The information that he divulged did, in fact, put many people in jeopardy. It undercut the ability of the United States to have confidential diplomatic communications, not just with other foreign governments, but in many countries with dissidents, people who, even speaking to American diplomats, could find themselves in trouble. And so, you know, he's been complaining about his treatment over the past period of time. He's the one who sought asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy. Now he faces extradition to the United States. I presume he will get due process in the United Kingdom to determine whether extradition should go forward. And when he gets to the United States, he'll get due process here. And I hope he gets at least 176 years in jail for what he did.
Stella?
Well, of course, Ambassador Bolton is kind of the ideological nemesis of Julian. He has, during his time for the Bush administration and later the Trump administration, sought to undermine the international legal system, ensure that the U.S. is not under the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction. And if it was, Mr. Bolton might in fact, be prosecuted under the ICC. He was one of the chief cheerleaders of the Iraq War, which Julian then exposed through these leaks. So he has a conflict of interest here.
Ambassador Bolton?
Well, that's ridiculous. I have an opinion. So does Assange's wife. I guess we both get to speak them. You know, I think that what she fears is being brought to the United States and having Assange put under trial. If he's innocent, she can at least show reasonable doubt that he's not guilty, he'll go free. What's she worried about?
I guess what she's worried about is a fair trial, because it's pretty clear what the attitude towards him is.
Well, let her say
a large number of Americans.
That's fine. Let her say Julian Assange cannot get a fair trial in America. Let her say it.
Okay.
Well, he cannot get a fair trial in America because he is being prosecuted under the Espionage Act, and he cannot bring a public interest defense. He cannot say, I published this information because it was in the public interest, precisely because it is under the Espionage Act. And it is the first time that a publisher has ever been prosecuted under this act. It's something that constitutional lawyers in the United States have been warning could happen for the past 50 years. And the New York Times and the Washington Post say this prosecution strikes at the heart of the First Amendment.
Ambassador Bolton.
Well, I think they are badly wrong on that. He's in effect a hacker and a person who breaks and enters into secure information.
Not even the U.S. alleges
he's prosecuted that. Under the. Let me finish now. The fact he's prosecuted under the Espionage Act is something that's been part of American law for many, many years. Plenty of other people have been prosecuted under it. And that goes directly to the issue of whether a country can protect classified information. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And I would say to the esteemed editors of the Washington Post and the New York Times, when you try and equate yourself with Julian Assange, you're making a very dangerous gesture, because while you're saying the First Amendment should apply to him, a different kind of legal system could move it in the opposite direction and put you under prosecution as well. It's a very dangerous position to take, and an inaccurate one. They're doing two completely different things.
Okay.
One set of them are publishing news. The other is damaging American national security.
Okay, Richard Tice, you've been jumping at the bit to get in here quickly.
Yeah, first of all, it's ridiculous that he's in Belmarsh prison, for heaven's sake. I mean, I just cannot understand that. As you've said, you know, it's the most high security. So that's absurd. If this can't be resolved, and it sounds to me actually as though it may not, is there not a sort of international jurisdiction? Because there is actually international important issues here that do need resolving. And both sides have a very strong, robust argument. And I wonder whether it's almost like a test case internationally. It's really, really significant, really important, and it needs to be heard, I think, in order to get some clarity.
Before I let you go, how is he physically? Because he's been in ill health. He was isolated during COVID for many months, couldn't see anybody, including you. How is he?
Well, he's suffering profoundly, and his health is declining by the day. You know, he's a caged animal, and you can just imagine what that does to a person. He's far away from me and the kids. He only sees us once or twice a week. And there's no reason for him to be in a high-security prison. And actually on Saturday, we're doing a human chain around the British Parliament to call for his release.
Stella, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. It's a fascinating debate. It cuts to the heart of where free speech begins and ends, and it's complex. It's difficult. I mean, there's no doubt about that, but I appreciate you coming in.
Can I just...
Final word, Paul, quickly.
Before we go, yeah. WikiLeaks released the names of the membership of the British National Party in 2008. This is not just about what's happening to Julian Assange in America. It's about all of us. I wanted to thank him for that.
Thank you. Really appreciate you coming in, Stella. And thank you to Ambassador Bolton. Appreciate you coming in from America too. Thank you very much indeed.